Hi, everybody. It's Hallie Hara. Thanks for joining me today. Today, we're going to cover a very practical topic that I'm calling navigating the dump and run, which are really just best practices for receiving a new assignment. So just a word on the dump and run. So actually, one of my former workplaces, that's what we used to call it. Folks were quite busy. And so there were certain people who gave projects to attorneys they supervised, and they would just drop it with very little information. And it was challenging to sort of figure out, because the person ran, what you're supposed to do. So just know going into this presentation and thinking about this topic that not all assigners are created equal, right? Nobody pulls us aside in law school and says, this is how to supervise and provide an assignment to another person. And so while it seems intuitive, it's not for everybody. Attorneys are busy people. They have a lot on their minds. So I wanted to prepare you as externs to receive assignments from the person who does the dump and run and the person who provides great detail. So in getting an assignment at your externship, what I want you to think about is there's often multiple clients that you're working for. So, if you're working at somewhere like legal aid, right? Or, the public defender's office, you have your supervising attorney, who in theory is sort of the client who you're doing the work for. And then you have the underlying client who you're also serving, right? Both of these clients benefit from you asking questions. Neither one just wants you to sort of put your head down and plow through. Think about who you're serving. Remember that it's not necessarily about you. So ask those clarifying questions so you can best serve whomever it is that you're working for. If you're working for the court, you're working for your judge, the greater judiciary, and the public and the litigants who are involved. So there are lots of people who are benefiting from your work. So think about that and be sure to ask those clarifying questions. So what happens if somebody does the dump and run? They're not there for you to ask clarifying questions. So be resourceful as you can. So in every job I've ever had, including externships, you need to find your person or your people. And you're not going to find those people on the first day, but these are the people who you feel comfortable, you've built a relationship with, that you could go to and say, this got dropped on my desk. I'm really not sure what to do with it. Can you help me kind of get pointed in the right direction? And that's okay, so long as the person obviously is within that organization. You're not breaching any confidences. And this person is not always an attorney. So an example would be if you're working at the court, right? In federal court, our courtroom deputies are quite knowledgeable about the ins and outs in our daily, practice. And so you might go to the courtroom deputy and say, oh, the judge left me this. I'm not sure what she meant by this. Can you clarify it for me? So find your people, be resourceful, but whatever you do, don't jump in with too little information. It's not a good use of your time. It's not ultimately serving any of your clients. And so do what you have to do, even if it means holding it and catching back up with the person who dumped this on your desk. Hopefully you won't have too many dump and runs in the externship context, because we have specifically engaged folks who have committed to helping you learn, but I wanted you to be prepared for any situation. Okay, so there's some things you generally want to do when you are receiving an assignment. And for many of you, this will be sort of the first professional setting you're working in, and that's okay. All you have to do is listen carefully and be proactive in getting the information that you need. So, people don't always think about the background that you need. So they've been working on a case for 2 years. They're so familiar with it. And they don't always say, here's the total background on this case. They may say, I want you to look into this issue. It's okay to ask for the big picture if that will help you understand your work better. Have confidence to admit when you don't understand something. So I still remember being called into a partner's office to receive an assignment. And this partner who I really enjoyed working with said, well, I want you to do is draft a tag along motion in this multi-district litigation. And I had never heard of that. I had clerked, I had, obviously graduated from law school, passed the bar. I'd never heard of a tag along motion. And, I just said, I'm really sorry, I don't know what that is. And you don't even need to do what I did. You don't need to apologize. You can say, can you let me know what a tag along motion is? I'm not sure what it is that we're talking about. So have the confidence to admit when you don't understand. And in that instance, the person explained it to me. It was perfectly clear. I walked away even with some samples and templates. So pause and make sure that you have a clear understanding. Also, try to nail down specifics. Again, this is going to be a little harder if you have the dump and run, but you still have ways to figure this out, even if it's in an email. So always have a legal pad with you to write down these details and anything you need. Ask the person, what type of work product would you like? Attorneys don't always think this through when they're giving an assignment. They're thinking about the case and the strategy. And so they may say to you, I want you to look into whether someone can file blah, 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 fill in the blank, but without saying, write me a memo or send me an email. So ask, what type of work product would you like? If it is a memo or a motion, ask for a template. Very rarely are you drafting something as an extern for the very first time. That's a perfectly reasonable request, as is a time estimate. So one of our sites where I place externs, they provide a time estimate on every assignment. Most lawyers won't commit to that, but if you can get it, don't spend more than about 10, 15 hours, right? That is a very helpful thing to get. But at the very least, try to walk away with a deadline, not a self-imposed deadline, a deadline given to you by your assigner. So I made the terrible mistake of, promising deadlines when the person didn't ask for them. So I would say something like, if it was a Thursday, I would say, okay, well, I'll have that for you on Monday before I even started the project. And 9 times out of 10, I would find myself there on the weekend because I had promised that, right? So you don't want to self-impose deadlines, but you do want to ask when they would like it. In most cases, externship work is not super time sensitive. Externship supervisors tend to realize that you are students first, externs second. And so, there isn't that expectation that you're going to drop everything and get something done very quickly. And so sometimes because of that, the opposite problem arises where a student will come to me and say, well, the person didn't give me a deadline. And so I've had this for months. I would say try to operate with a deadline in all circumstances, even if it's one that you put on your calendar for yourself that you don't even communicate. So if they say this is an open-ended project, I really don't have a date in mind, put a date on your own calendar, because otherwise, that law of time management will take over, that a task expands or contracts to the time allotted. If you give yourself 2 months to do the assignment, it will take 2 months, even if you could have done it in 2 weeks. So really think about those deadlines. Also, you'll find at most externship sites, lawyers tend to work in teams. This is something that we don't do often in law school, but it really is sort of best practices within organizations to be collaborative. And so you ask the person who's giving you the assignment, is there anyone else you'd like me to include on the email, the memo, whatever it is? Ask about their availability for questions and preferred means of communication. So it may be that, you work for the public defender's office and your site supervisor gave you their phone number when they were meeting you at the courthouse. Don't assume that you can text questions to that person, right? So each person has a different way that they like to be contacted. Some people may want email. Some people may say, my door is always open. Feel free to just stop by. So ask that question and then make a note of it for next time. And then the last thing that I want you to keep on your radar screen is that this is a learning experience, and how you're going to learn the most is through feedback on your work. And so schedule a time, if possible, to either present your findings, to get feedback, or both. Because otherwise, if you're not very deliberate in asking for it, someone may just pass you in the hall and say, hey, good job on that. I only made a few changes. I filed it. And that may be the only feedback you get. So be very proactive about asking for that feedback on every assignment. And then have a plan. Know that you're going to end up in the rabbit hole. You are. This is the nature of legal research. Legal research is not such that you go to look things up and you'll get a flashing gold star, ding, 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 you got the right answer. Often the law is very gray. And so, we engage in that cycle of research where when we come back to the beginning and start seeing the same cases again, okay, I think I've pretty much found everything, right? Which is not the same satisfaction as the flashing gold star. So there will be times that you veer off course. There will be times that you're unsure. Know that ahead of time, right? Have a plan. So, you're learning to refine your skills, problem solve and learn. So that may mean reaching out to confirm that you're on the right path. It may be discussing it with a fellow extern. Just know that these instances are going to come up. You will make mistakes. That is built into the process, whether you're an extern or a new attorney. Research is not a perfect thing. So just have a plan in advance to sort of be a problem solver and to learn from the experience. And then all of this information that you've learned, all of those details, odds are, once you start working with someone, particularly if it's your site supervisor, you're going to be working with this person time and time again. So take notes to remember for next time. This person likes email. This person likes drop-in. On their preferred communications, take notes about the specific assignment. The second slide just made me think of a train coming. And if there is a train coming in your future, the better you're able to prepare for it and have a plan ahead of time to work with this person, the better off you'll be. And then just remember, this is a learning experience. Your externship is for your learning. So your future employer, your future clients, thank you for asking questions and seizing this opportunity to really work on these skills. So nice work to all of you. As always, I'll be rooting for you. I know you can do it. Thanks.